I think American modern dance companies have a unique structure. That is, you created a company and a choreographic idea around yourself. You were the star, and you were the choreographer, and all the dances that resulted came from that. Paul Taylor grew up in that tradition, a company centered on a single figure.
Newsweek is calling him the world's greatest living choreographer. Hell, I knew that years ago.
This is where I get some of my best ideas for dances on the way to the studio. You know, I usually put off thinking until the last minute, and then on the way, I find that actually walking, you know, moving, helps the brain work a little bit. There was a trash can with a record in it. On the way to the studio, I was supposed to do a new dance, only I didn't know what, and I hadn't done the music or anything. And I found this record on the top of the trash can. It was the Andrews Sisters, so I picked it up, and that was it.
He was a famous trumpet.
But that's a lie. I just said that to be funny. They printed it. Suddenly, when you're walking to work, you realize that there are going to be some people there waiting around to be told what to do. There's no putting it off. I get my energy, I think, from being afraid to choreograph, being afraid to fail. Because some pieces turn out okay and others stink. On the other hand, it's what I do. I probably couldn't do any other kind of job. And no matter how reluctant I may be to start a new work or how nervous, I just make my feet walk me to the studio, I'm okay. And then again, I say I have the dancers to lean on. You know, they're expecting me, and they're trusting me. I'm not able to tell you exactly the full cast yet. I have to wait and see what's happening here. But you all can't be in it, I'm sorry to say. We have to leave some out to understudy and cover.
With Taylor, it's the idea of each dance. You know, I look at it and I think, where did he get an idea to do a dance on that subject?
That Piazzolla music is a quote from the poet Neruda. His is the music of the, quote, flawed confusion of human beings worn away as by acid by the labor of hands impregnated with sweat and smoke, smelling of lilies and of urine.
I don't believe we're going to get all that in this, but at least as a starting point.
You know, and it won't all be ugly. But here, it's about confrontation, basically. I'm not seeing the dance in my mind. I have to see something in front of me before I know it's what I want or not. And as a result, we do a lot of fooling around and trying things. So, you want to hear this thing? I would just count this in 8, 6, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It should be kind of predatory. If you could circle each other, yeah, you could do it just plain and then go around the other way would be all right.
It's very uncomfortable at first.
Well, my stomach just turns. Am I good? I don't know.
Yes, exactly. Am I good enough? Am I going to give him inspiration?
You could get fancy by doing that, and then we'll catch you on that. And then step behind and do it again. That's right. Good. And go around. Wait. Yeah, that would be better. You could sort of throw her.
Sorry.
You straighten up there.
Okay.
So that you're in this way.
Okay.
I don't want to stick with this familiar tango look necessarily, but as long as we're starting,
okay,
then we can go practically anywhere, I think. Don't look off to here. Keep looking back at him. Yeah.
Don't even think of doing anything. Yes. Me pulling you is going to turn you. 5. Yes, exactly.
Okay. I have a tendency to be like this.
And me too.
Which makes it hard for the guy. It's like, relax. I'm trying.
Can you do that from this position? I mean, your head will be at the other end.
My head to the floor, and he has my feet.
I see their expressions cross their faces, and And if I read their minds, it seems like they're saying, he must be nuts. I can't do that. But they're very good sports, and they will so often try the most unlikely things that I ask them to do. Sometimes I think if I asked them to jump out the window, they actually would. Then, and reach out. There, that's, oh, that's right.
right now.
You can't just rise and start turning. You've got to, like, already rise.
And I can twirl.
That's right. Okay.
Sorry, are you okay?
A choreographer can't work without a dance company. To work on, a composer can work on a symphony without an orchestra. Painters, you know, tubes of paint sort of lie around until you squeeze them. But dancers are living, articulate beings. Dancers get tired, get sick, have babies. It means that the process of creation is an extraordinarily social event. It's both exciting and debilitating in a way.
It's an awful responsibility. You know, the buck stops here. Not just their artistic life, but their health, mental stability. Once a dancer comes into this company, we have a kind of pact. I will do for them what I can, and they'll dance as good as they can. It's not a democracy, it can't be, but it's creating an atmosphere and a team and a group of people who trust each other and count on each other. And that spirit is what the audience sees, besides the steps.
While you're dancing, it feels great. I mean, just to be that in tune with your body, it becomes addictive.
If I haven't danced in a little while, next thing you know, I'm tombing pas de bourrée right down to the corner.
Just so you're not side by side, right?
And then there's the somersaulting, Taki, where you weren't quite traveling far enough
That's
to
him.
that.
And he
Yeah,
soloed.
to
Like
get
he had
beyond Tom.
I'm worse. I'm worse dancing in the company. Because I started dance like when I was 20, I think 20.
What did you do before that?
Before playing baseball.
Playing baseball where?
Playing baseball in Japan.
Yeah. Is there a responsibility you have to Paul?
I think so. Yeah.
What is it?
I have to improve.
I'm now the rehearsal directress, so I'm responsible for getting old repertory back. Now get it into shape to show Paul, because I know exactly what Paul hates to see. Arms on the stag, you said. The back arm on the stag.
I just noticed Sylvia, and she knew I noticed and immediately corrected herself.
I don't think if it wasn't for the performing aspect of it that I would be here at all. I don't particularly like the rehearsal process. It's very hard on you. They're constantly criticizing you.
Because you have no time to always tell them when they are right. Mostly what I do is I don't bother cleaning very first. I usually put the piece together like a traffic cop and then let them get into it. And then all of those mistakes will sort of flow away. By example, by the older members of the company, these younger members to watch the older members because we rehearsed enough times.
Sing.
That's good. You want to do it again?
I just wanted it so badly that every time there was an audition, of course I would be there.
You'll get 300 to 500 women showing up for one, and that's just for one dance company, one job.
I think I made it down to 8 or 9 women, you know, which was, I was so happy. But as the years went on, it seemed like, you know, I'd fall further and further behind in the audition process. Up until even this last audition, I felt I'd never danced better. And nothing.
Beautiful, beautiful dancers. So many, no job.
It's so hard to see. You see all these, like sometimes you actually feel guilty because when you get into a major company, it's a lot of luck because there are 100 people out there that could do the job.
Just before Paul asked us to understudy, we were really at the bottom.
It was hard to go back to class that next Monday. It was really hard to get your butt back into class and, you know, and just keep going like it's all the same. But you do. And then, what do you know? 2 days later, and he wants to take 2 understudies to India. And you thank God you were there that day, you know?
It's like you're a father, leading all these young people.
Well,
Is that instinctive?
my father was divorced by my mother, and I rarely saw him. My mother was a working woman, and it was not convenient for me to really live at home very often. My mother found a farm family, and I went to live with them for several years in Maryland. Kind of adopted me, really.
That was the Butzes?
Mm-hmm. The Butzes, yeah. And then I went to a boys' prep school down in Virginia. And then I was on my own. All right, whenever you're ready, Andrew. In 3 epitaphs, the larger idea seems to be the contrast between our poor, miserable, ape-like, primitive selves and that striving to be human and to hold our backs up straight, and the spurts of energy and failure of being upright. Martha Graham had come to see it, and she got me aside afterwards, and she said, "Naughty boy, we don't cover up their faces."
I feel that a lot of those avant-garde excursions and experiments and annoyances were partly to annoy Martha. He had to get away from the influence of Graham. Graham was such a saint, such a figure, and she ran her company, particularly the men in her company, in a very rigid sort of fashion. And this was in the early 60s, getting to know Jasper Johns and Robert Rauschenberg. Watching them paint and talk about it was an influence on me and my work. Like found objects, I mean, the movement consisted of ordinary pedestrian movement. I thought this was such a wonderful idea to show people in the street walking or running or chasing a bus or lying down drunk or anything. You know, if you looked at it fresh, it was beautiful.
At the tone, the time will be 2:50.
But what happened was I was doing a series of postures with stillnesses in between, so you could see them after about the first 10 minutes. The whole auditorium had emptied. It was gone. But that wasn't the intent behind it. It just was, I didn't know. And I was learning.
Then, as only Paul would do, he took it to the real edge. The curtain went up. There he was, standing in a suit and tie, young lady sitting down in a dress. 4 minutes later, the curtain came down.
Well, you try things, you know.
And that sparked that extraordinary review.
The blank review of the blank dance by Louis Horst, who, of course, was Martha's musical guru, sometime friend, lover, advisor, etc. So that, in a way, whatever Paul was doing, he was doing it right, because he was certainly getting at Martha.
There was Graham, and then there was this big dysfunctional family, and Paul Taylor was one of them. And there were all these people, and then they all branched out too, and they all brought their own dysfunction to their own companies.
And you're snapping out of your very first.
See, in general, the beats are always down in this piece. And that's the irony, because it looks like it's very airy.
And
But it just should not feel airy. It has to be weighted down, 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 down.
But it's the first time that you want to wait them.
Part of the problem is you let that outside... Betty, please, let me get rid of this idea I have, and then you go tell it.
How much does he need you?
I think he needs me because he knows I'll forgive him when he yells at me. So at times it's that. And sometimes just somebody that has been there for that long.
What was it like dancing with Paul?
Terrific. See, especially this duet. I was just this dead creature that he threw me around. I'm on the floor, and he makes a headstand on my hip. And in 3 counts, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, he would let me know what that duet was going to be like. I always knew that he revered women. They were going to be carried like glass. Paul and I are not big talkers, we're quibblers. But on stage, it was a totally natural thing. There's never a doubt what the response had to be. It was question and answer through movements. It was amazing. It was really amazing. I loved it. If you gave me a pair of new legs tonight, I'll do it again.
Patrick, we're going to go through Oreo.
We dance a lot together. There's just warm love between us.
Okay, here we go.
We've danced together from the first day we joined the company. We both tend to get nervous energy before the performance, so we know we have to be calmer for each other. We know that we have to keep eye contact constantly. We know that we have to breathe. She tells me to calm down, I tell her to calm down. We stroke each other constantly that way. We can almost read each other's minds. There's also a bit of a sexual or chemical attraction going on. I like the way she looks. I hope she likes the way I look. You know, we enjoy each other's bodies. She feels so good that it's just about the most perfect match I've ever had.
I used to get her sort of here, and then all I had to do was, but I had a very long Achilles, and so this might, if you do that, but whatever it is, you have to have a firm base because this wobbling will not do. Do you find that hard to do? Well, I did. That walk from there to there, it used to kill me. I used to worry and stay up at night about it.
Oh, really?
I don't know what I thought I was trying to do, but I just never felt I could do it right.
I'm just trying not to be noticeable, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Well, or at least sort of contained, but friendly somehow.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no, you do it great.
I must have seen him in 62 because I saw him in Oreo. And it was amazing because I'd never seen a man that large move so fluidly. The solo in Oreo is just like water. It's like pouring out of his fingertips. And there's no positions. Nothing is set as stopped or posed. And I thought to see a man move like that was extraordinary.
I could do it in my sleep. I could still do it.
I'd love to see that.
Well, you know, wouldn't be as good as Patrick, but yeah, I know, I can remember it.
Yeah, do you remember what it feels like?
Yeah, well, that's how you remember it, what it feels like. I couldn't think it through. The muscles tell you.
Where?
The muscles. The muscle memory. It's all I can do to keep in the chair because I want to get up. My body wants to get up and do it to the music, too.
Taylor, please hold. Paul Taylor.
This morning, remember I told you, in terms of bookings, we got a fax from Lisbon, and they are interested. They're
I
interested.
told you everything would be all right. There wouldn't be any company if it weren't for Ross. He's our, our executive director, I think is what his proper title is. But he, oversees the staff, raises money, thinks up new projects for the company. He sort of babysits me at times.
I think often of my parents and how they took care of me. And I turn around and I think, how can I take care of Paul in that kind of way as well?
He's a real friend.
Can I ask a question? Well, is there an orchestra?
There's an orchestra.
We have an orchestra. How large is the orchestra?
45 pieces.
45, and that...
Max.
This is public information now?
I spoke with John this morning. Yeah, told him.
Okay.
That we're not going with the traditional orchestra. Legally speaking, we have our right to have a non-union orchestra at City Center. From this point on, it's not...
You're watching the best television on television. Boston's PBS station.
And we'll take our chances, see what happens.
What Paul Taylor's company doesn't have, which European companies have, the state subsidy. And trying to present yourself can be gruesome, it can be fatal, and sometimes you wonder why they keep going.
There are no choices. We will succeed. We will find a solution. We will find an answer. That's what I am getting paid for.
I couldn't do the business end of this thing. I'm not a businessman, really. And
what are you?
Well, I'm a dance maker.
There's no question in my mind why Paul Taylor keeps going is that he's compelled to say something, and he says it on a stage.
When you know he's going to do a ballet, you pray to God you're in it.
You need her, Richard, Thomas, Andrew, Ted, and Terry, Andy.
Now I'm dying for him to work on me, I want to see what he can get out of me.
That's a very intimate act when he makes a dance on you, and he allows, I feel like, the creative person in you to come out. He allows the poetry of your own self to come out and merge with his.
To the torture chamber. Gary, come up there. You want to hear your music?
Sure.
I decided, well, this will be nice for Francie here. Kind of music it is, I thought she'd be very suitable for, and it also won't be like anything that she's done before.
You see the ballet inside your head, and then there's the ballet here. Here's a question. I see you thinking when you're choreographing.
Yeah.
What do you picture?
Anything that comes to mind. I don't picture, I go home and I count out the music. I arrive with a list of numbers. I mean, in this instance, that's it. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's face it. The dances are just waiting to give them some steps. That's it. You could start this way, with that same old thing. Yeah, you could. I'm just ready to turn that way. And yeah. 6.
I'm trying to read his mind. It's a hard thing to know when to speak up and when not to guess, is this a good time to give him a suggestion? Do I think I know what he means? Do I think I know what he wants? Is it better to just keep my mouth shut and let him work through it in his mind?
Okay. Do it this way? Is that the way you turn?
That's the way you did. It's not necessarily the way I want to. But
Up, down.
I'd almost rather go there, but you know,
You
here, then it says steps on it.
that way.
Yeah.
And then you did this and that. No, I want you to go that way.
And that's the other thing. I mean, I know him so well. I feel like I know when he's getting frustrated, too. So I kind of pull back.
There should be a slinkiness. No, I mean, it's about opening the crotch.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of this.
There, that's right. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You think you got it ready?
Well, maybe. I think I got a deduction.
We want to keep the dancers happy while they're touring as much as possible. They're happy, they dance better, we have better shows, we do better, people see us, love us better, and we come back and do more touring.
What? What? I don't want to do that. How do you know that?
John told me. He told me that's the deal.
I calculated that we should be getting a minimum of $26. In fact, you're getting less those days, but you're getting much more the other days. It evens out. What we've agreed with Sheridan is you go to any restaurant you want, you eat your dinner, you sign it to your room, and it's covered. So I said, if that's really what it is, we'll accept the lesser per diem.
But the thing we cherish is our freedom to eat where and when we like, and based on the fact that we have a system of getting full per diem all the time, gives us that option.
The experience that both Ross and I had going over there was you don't really want to eat outside the hotels.
Oatmeal, dried apricot, cashews, party mix, lots of soup, granola, tiger bars, tuna.
18 cans.
Okay, 8 shows, 2 people.
That's plenty.
Peanut butter, emergency, Robitussin, Imodium,
Head pillows.
NyQuil,
The speakers.
melatonin.
For the theater?
No. From hotel to theater. Throat lozenges, Band-Aid, sewing kit, neosynephrine, spoons, Pepto-Bismol.
This is my flask, but I have to still fill it.
In the beginning, we had to get the dancers on the train and get the tickets, and everybody did everything to wash their own costumes.
Did everybody get paid in those days?
No, and modern dancer get paid. It was unheard of. And eventually, and when we got more work and we got a manager, I was very, very proud of the fact that mine, I think, was one, not, it may have been the first, but at least one of the first modern dance companies to work long enough to collect unemployment.
And that unemployment became rehearsal money. So it was the first government subsidy. They didn't intend it that way, but that's how it worked. We were so proud of the fact that we had enough weeks' work in a year to get on unemployment that, you know, we had a party. I mean, it was just fantastic. For Paul Taylor, his real family, I think, was the first-generation dancers.
And he was a father figure, and he was a mother figure, because he certainly told us how to dress sometimes.
And I never really thought of him as the boss during performance. And very frequently, if there was a section that he was not in or a dance he was not in, he was always in the wings in his blue bathrobe, and that was always the most comforting, lovely feeling.
And so there was, you could have a very, very love-hate relationship with Paul. But the thing about Paul was he was dancing. He would wait. We'd open the door for rehearsal, and he was waiting there.
Paul used to be very down around Thanksgiving and Christmas. And he would wait for the dancers on the way up or the way down and attack them for their lousy makeup or they were too fat.
Is it going to be this way, or is that back on?
That's what you want.
Towards the middle or the end of one rehearsal, I just gave up.
Maybe this was a time when he really needed to make sure we were really dedicated.
We were constantly tested on our devotion to him.
In order to prove our dedication, we were asked to do something really hateful, which is to change all of our travel plans and not go home for the holidays. This was announced 2 days before.
And I said, you're all fired. I can't do this anymore. I give up. Out. Just get out. I can't go on. It's too hard. And I don't know what I said, but I was very upset.
We were fired one at a time. We were asked if we would come in, and when we said no, we were fired.
I told him in his face, you can't do that. We have engagements. How can we do engagements when you fire everybody?
And I stormed out and went home and slammed the door. I thought, oh, God, thank God I don't have to do this anymore. But what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to make a living? What's going to happen to me now? I mean, they're all right. They can go dance with somebody else, but what am I going to do?
We met on the corner of 6th Avenue and Van Dam Street, the entire company, with a Christmas tree. Walked half a block, knocked on the door.
And there they were, holding up a Christmas tree, already decorated, barging in to celebrate Christmas Eve with me.
Not another word was spoken. That night, there was nothing to iron out. There was nothing to hash out. We decorated the tree. Somebody went out for pizza. But it was a devastating experience.
And it makes sense when you think of his childhood. Here is this guy who was in a foster home, right? Who loved this family out on this farm, was completely disillusioned when he found out that they were paid to have him there. This guy walking around by himself, finally feeling some love, realizing it's paid love. How does he deal with that? What's coming out of him? I think he just went more inward. And so that's how it began. Paul Taylor, the loner, who's also a master of seeing the dark and the light. So you take one of his most popular pieces, Esplanade, for example. In the middle of all of this wonderful dance and movement and running is this family portrait. You see, the people are reaching out to one another, but they never touch. I mean, this is a really dysfunctional family, which Paul puts in to Everything is Wonderful dance, and then boom, there it is. Nobody else does that. I mean, that's his unbelievable genius. But that's kind of a real family for Paul. And it's interesting, to me, the ultimate loner, still needs that.
Happy New Year!
To India.
Yeah!
And I want you to know that no matter what happens, I'm going to be proud of you.
You're all fired. The tour of India is a month-long tour, and they'll perform in the 4 major cities.
Hello, Paul Taylor. You're not supposed to run.
I'm so glad to see you. How are you?
Lord Ganesha is the film lord.
Really?
Yes.
They had film in those days.
Well, not quite.
I've never seen this much poverty, and they built us a whole theater and put it inside a tent and had flowers and food and a whole party where they invited 1,000 people. It was great that they honored us in such a way, but disconcerting at the same time that right outside people are starving in the streets.
When the audience is there and you have a pointed foot, that is the line we want. Back there. Back here. Yeah.
No, but usually, Paul, I'm sitting right in front
I
of the
know
door.
it usually happens.
He is absolutely the dancer again. If he was up there, he would be much less nervous.
No, I mean, you look anything comparatively with
I'm missing the title.
15 minutes.
I haven't lost a dancer yet.
Actually, I prefer backstage, to be frank with you, because it's lonely out there. And you get very nervous out there. You have no control because you're not moving anymore. It's all out of your hands.
Paul Taylor is defined American dance in the second half of the 20th century. We set forth into the final years of this century, full of hope for the promise of the next. William Clinton.
And lights up now.
I mean, I tell you, frankly, fear is present a lot of the time. I'm always afraid that I'll push too hard and I'll run out of energy, you know, before the curtain's down. But somehow it's always there. Even when you have no faith and you think you're out of energy, you're not going to make it. It's there somehow. It's the music, and it's doing a great piece by a master.
Stand by for the blackout. Blackout. Go.
It was absolutely marvelous, out of the world, and the whole troupe. And I've decided the only reason the United States is a superpower, there's so many fit young people.
How long have you been with the troupe? 7.5 years. Oh my God. I love it. I love it.
And yet some have been there longer.
These people are the ones that I picked myself and who I knew I would love working with.
Beautiful. Francis, 10 years?
What's the average age of the dancers?
Thank you. I must thank you.
I think that Paul can sound very sweet, and then you have to worry about where the wheels are turning. What is he really thinking?
It seems always clear to me that we're animals, basically, or at least grown from animals. So the dance tries to picture the cloven part of our kingdom between the formal society and a primitive one.
Can make dances that are so beautiful, in which the people all seem blessed, like spirits, you know, in some kind of Eden, like Oriel or Airs. And then he can make dances that scare the daylights out of you, like Last Look.
as if you're waking up from the dead. You can't sit up usually. You have to roll to the side to get out. And then your ankles have frozen into this locked position. And you feel like they're going to break, like they're glass. And your sacrum is fused, and you have not many vertebrae, but just one long vertebra in your back. You get into a nice warm shower, and you just let the water spray down on your back after your feet stop stinging because of all the splits in the bottom of them. You just sort of let the water wash over you and try to wash some of the soreness and sickness and pain away. Then drink a cup of coffee and you light a cigarette, and it's time for breakfast.
I have terrible legs. I hardly can walk anymore. My knees are just, I hardly can get down the subway anymore.
You have to be careful. I'm in 3 pieces a night sometimes, most of the time, and I can't just drop out for weeks. You know, I can't get hurt.
Just try to get through the day. Try to think about what's going to start happening at 12 o'clock when you hit that stage, and work past the pain a lot of times, because when you get into the theater and you start warming yourself up, you just think to yourself, there is no way in hell that I'm going to be able to get through this next show.
I try to prevent injuries. I'm the production stage manager. I basically do everything technically for the company except for lighting, which is Tony's job, and costumes, which is Sabato's job. During the show, I'm running the show, which is telling the lights when to start on their cues and the sound when to start on its cue, the curtain when to go up and when to come down, the dancers when to bow and when to stop bowing.
You ready with musical offerings, Mr. Justin?
Musical offering. I look at it and I wonder how in the world it ever got made. When I heard the music, I had never heard it, this very famous Bach, which was written towards the end of his life. It was one of his last pieces. So I thought to make it a requiem. And I made the dance in this two-dimensional way, that is, to look like wood blocks, and a kind of stiffness to the movement.
I feel the light, and the music comes up. It's a requiem, so I sort of start the morning. I think about death, especially my experience with Jeff dying. He was like my little brother. I mean, yeah, I was pretty close to him. And he left the company, went to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and died there in '94. A whole bunch of us went out to be with him. We were literally there in the room, and it was the most intense experience I've had with death. And it affects me a lot, and I think of him often and miss him a lot, and especially when I think of musical offering and when I dance it.
Jeff's gift to me when he died, when we went down to see him off in New Mexico, was not to be afraid of death anymore. Of course, you know that my lover just passed away 4 months ago, died of AIDS.
Chris, Jeff, Jim, Ernie.
Every time we're dancing, especially Paul's works, I feel every bit of artist of Philip and Jeff and Chris with me. I feel like I'm with them, and they're my wings. They're lifting me up. They're taking me into the floor. They're helping me make all of the decisions that have to go during a performance. And the sad thing is, when the music stops, they go away, but they'll be there the next time.
In Chris Gillis's case, he was visibly, getting weaker, and kept him dancing as long as he could. He had begun to choreograph, and he's very good. Well, he'd been home from the hospital, and his sister and mother had come and stayed with him in his New York apartment. And I got a call, and I was in the country, and they said, you better come. Such a dancer. I'd sort of hoped he'd take over the company someday.
No music? No music at all? Go to CD, no? Why no music? Why? Why? No power to sound at all. Why?
जनरेटर चल रहा था सिरीपुर जनरेटर सिरीपुर का जनरेटर था चलता रहा वो अभी तो दिखा रहे हो ना वो साइड लगाया था इस साइड अरे तीनों खाली है तीनों लाइट ही नहीं हो रहा जनरेटर खाली नहीं वो नहीं लगा बोले 6:30 बजे जनरेटर चलवा all sound is out all sound चलो करो ना कुछ क्या चालू नहीं है जनरेटर ऑन नहीं Very well.
Battery will never die. That's why it's on battery, unless the batteries die. Cool. Yeah. Perfect timing. Stand by on the blackout, Tony.
The breath, like that made me so emotional. Someone was shining down. Ganesh, even Paul was like, wow!
My dance was ruined. And they were the heroes, not me. They stole the show. I would love to stay with you. I have really enjoyed seeing you. You have done beautiful. But Ross and I have to leave to get ready for your wonderful New York engagement. Godspeed.
Today is the first day back. We have a new piece that's going to be premiered, and there are a lot of changes happening at the present time. Any change that's not precipitated by knowledge of the change usually creates a lot of tension. So there's sort of an underlying feeling of uncertainty.
I fired Jill. It just wasn't going to work.
He called her, it was a 30-second phone call, and that was it. It was over.
I told her right the day after she got back from the last tour. Yeah, I didn't want to keep her waiting, or, you know, why prolong it.
If she goes back out in the dance world, she's got to face 500 other women.
So many. No doubt.
You know, she was taken from the second company with expectations that she would improve. And it never happened. It just, for 2 years.
In the story, it's his company. He does what he wants. That's his ultimate response.
didn't want to work with her. It wasn't, you know, like, interesting.
Of all the choreography I've ever seen in my life, I love his the best. I respect him the utmost as an artist and what he's put out. I just can't respect what he's done as a person, so it left me in a kind of funny position. What am I going to do?
Unfortunately, it's a part of the business. We've seen it happen a lot. So, I mean, professionally, there's a certain point where you have to get past it. But personally, yeah, it's sad. Coming in here, it's sad not having her around.
I've just known Jill for a long time, you know, and we've gone through a lot to get here.
Jill's not with the company anymore, but Maureen is. Hopefully it's going to be a positive outcome. Everything will work towards a big, killer premiere.
It's not about turning, it's about jamming on the brakes. Good. Oh, you did it. All right. She's really solidly into it. I think I hurt myself. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just one little thing. You're gonna kill me, I know. I wish that arm could sweep on in contact with the floor. Good, okay.
Beautiful. I can just stand and watch her.
Well, you could.
When he's on a roll and you're on a roll, the hours disappear and the walls disappear, and you're not on Broadway between Prince and Spring anymore. You're just in a much more vivid place. I wouldn't trade anything in the world for an hour in the studio with Paul making something. I mean, it can be really hard. It can be like pulling teeth, too, for both of us.
A little wider, I think.
Oh, so I have to put my weight on it, maybe?
I think you have to.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. You know why? The character.
Yes.
She's slightly sluttish in a nice way, okay?
Hi, Jen.
Lady.
For me, it's an easy way to work, to have a motivation. She wants a man, and they're occupied. They're not interested, but... So, I mean, I think she's basically a good person. Doesn't mean she's a bad person, but she wants a man. She's still a good person.
It's sometimes a little hard to get the dancers to do the depravity and the mayhem because they've never experienced it. And you sort of choreograph it into them instead of letting them express it through memories. Things like that.
Paul likes to go to the edge in his life as well. We were performing in St. Helens, and Paul is really unhappy. I think he had a very unhappy love affair in Denmark with somebody who couldn't speak English, and he couldn't speak Danish. And Paul went into Liverpool to let life beat up on him. He was going to go to the edge, and if he lived, fine. If he died, fine, too. That was his kind of thinking.
Oh, well, you know, I think we're here for a limited time, and that's it. And you better get used to the idea, you know? I don't find it all that horrible. It's the way nature works. But I would, you know, I like the idea that if there are any dances of mine that people want to do and keep doing, that's fine with me, and I've made some effort to see that that can happen. But it depends on them.
That's what we're here for. We're here to support Paul in his artistic endeavors. That's what we're here for. New York City, you know, historically the dance capital of the world. It's probably the centerpiece of the entire year. Another way of framing it is, it's home. This is our home. This is what it's all about. We live here, our friends, our family.
I'm here. It's what we gear up for all year. It's New York. It's the critics, which sucks.
So it's very special on a personal and a professional level. But because of the expenses, we must go out and fundraise just to even have the New York season.
Every place else in the world, this year, Brazil, India, China, you name it, we get fees for going there, and we come home and we're not broke. But in New York, there is no way we're going to even anywhere near break even.
I mean, the thing for me around City Center, it's the only time that I get funders to actually see the company.
So many of the corporate headquarters, foundation headquarters, are based here in New York City.
It's a very small window that I have to work within. I mean, it's the 2-week season, and that's it.
One of the areas that is particularly expensive, historically, is the use of live music. It's just too expensive. There are people today who just accept that you don't need live music, that you can go with tape.
This feels like make-do.
It's the norm, more than not these days.
After a while, you begin to wonder, you know, how important it is to dance in New York City.
We had pretty much made the decision to go to tape.
By good fortune, I ran across this wonderful young orchestra who plays our things, as it turns out, than anybody has ever played them. They're magnificent, and there are lots of them, and they're non-union.
When I called up the theater and said, you know, we're considering this, is this even a possibility? They said, well, actually it is, because we don't have a contract with the musicians' union. Therefore, you are well within your legal rights to bring in anybody that you want to.
So everything seemed great until the union heard about it. And that's when the rock started flying.
I believe that unions were begun, you know, for the right reasons. I really do. And what's unfortunate is, in this instance, they're asking for 65% of our box office. There's something inherently wrong with the economics of that situation. I think I actually had already crossed that bridge that I was accepting of the tape music. But Paul's a risk taker. Paul, you know, really believes so strongly in this.
This isn't just an artistic matter, this is a moral matter. It's wrong that we be prevented from dancing in New York because of finding an orchestra that's willing to do it for less money than a union orchestra.
This is what they're proposing. Could you read that quickly? And
yeah,
just want to make sure that you're comfortable with that.
If I sign all this, they promise not to pick it.
You got it.
I don't care they can pick it. Let them pick it.
Musicians, united, will never be defeated.
Yeah.
Musicians, united.
Because I'm backstage and there are pickers.
Jennifer, Tipton, and Betty Dijon.
They signed an agreement. Going forward, Taylor and Metamorphosis will be union.
What I would hope is that we could resolve to sit down after the season and really address long-term the issues here without any preconceived notions as to what has to happen, and really sit down and have an open and free, constructive, creative dialogue to figure out what it's going to take to give Paul Taylor, to give artists like Paul Taylor what they need to create the work that they do. There are so few of them left these days, and it's getting harder and harder for the younger people to do what they do. And God, I mean, we are losing out. We are just, the clock's ticking, and there's so many people out there who have such wonderful things to say, and they're not getting their opportunity. And that's a horrible situation, really horrible situation. Let's go put on a show.
Channel 10, please. Right. Touch more.
Next. The pressure is to deliver. I mean, the pressure is to deliver something new.
We're 15 minutes. 15 minutes, please.
It's a premiere. It's, you know, Paul's there to take a bow, and we have Jennifer Tipton lighting and Sandra LaCroix to work on the costumes. And
For the first time ever in modern dance history, push-up bras. Lisa, we had a prior from the mirror. It's what I call scrape from the side.
There was a role that I had to do. It was a big role. Comes to the rehearsal before the premiere performance in New York, and he comes up to you and he pulls you aside and he goes, "Man, it's just not working, and I don't know what to tell you." And I went to my dressing room and I cried. And then Patrick told me he was premiering a piece at Kennedy Center. After the rehearsal that day, Paul came up to him and pulled him aside and said, "It's just not working, and I'm afraid it's your fault." And I thought, that's what this bastard did.
I get my energy, I think, from being afraid. Being afraid to choreograph, being afraid to fail. I don't see any kind of real fire. It looks like, you know, you've been told to do those steps. And I don't want to see choreography, for God's sake. There has to be always that intensity. I want to see expressive whole bodies.
Because it is so intimate and you're revealing yourself so closely to somebody, sometimes that is turned against you. I hated that. I hated, oh, of course I thrived on it because I went to 12 years of Catholic school, so I was used to that.
You have to watch it. It's easy to forget their side of the picture and just barge right ahead with what you think is art. These last songs, too tame. You pick up the knees and stamp. Push it, if you can, a little more towards demonic Hades. If it's sweet, it's no good. I long ago decided if I get 60% of what I really want to see on stage, that's a damn good average.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're at 5 minutes till Caldetta.
I wish I could enjoy these things.
You actually put a new stick of gum in today.
Here.
There it is.
Moment we've been waiting for, you know?
5 minutes, please.
It's exciting. I love the dance.
Nervous. Every other performance after this will be compared in some way to this one.
How are you?
Oh, Lord.
Out. Go. Curtain. Go. Music. Go.
The dance is not about love as such. It's simply about physical sex. and those relationships which we make do for love sometimes. And I cast it with 7 men and 5 women, knowing that at times we were going to have same-sex partnering. Because again, it's another human trait. And I don't really have a message as such, but I am aware of the world we live in. And I watch people. I'm a watcher. I'm a terrible spy. I watch people move in their everyday lives and their gestures, which are so communicative. And those are so usable in a dance. You know, I had no moral attitude, really. I'm a reporter. I report things as I see them.
One writer wrote, "Isn't it great to be alive in the time of Paul Taylor?" You completely lose yourself and you just become part of the music.
The American artist discovering what it is he was born to do. Wow. It's a great path, a great journey, huh?